Right now in Jerusalem, 5 red cows are under 24-hour surveillance. The Temple Institute has recreated every sacred instrument needed for worship. Priests from the tribe of Levi are training for rituals in a temple that doesn't exist yet. Everything needed to restart, ancient sacrifices, is ready. But here's what makes this terrifying. An ancient prophecy says the man who helps them rebuild their temple will walk into it 3.5 years later and demand they worship him as God. Jesus called this the Abomination of Desolation, and he said, "When you see it, run for your life." In the next 15 minutes, I'll show you 5 discoveries that prove Israel is preparing to worship someone they haven't even met yet. Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button right now so that you won't miss what's coming next. 3 days before his crucifixion, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives overlooking Jerusalem. His disciples came to him privately with a question that still echoes today. Tell us, when will these things happen? What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? Jesus gave them a detailed answer: wars, famines, earthquakes, false prophets. The gospel preached to all nations. But then he said something that made them freeze. When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, run. If you're on your roof, don't go inside to grab anything. If you're working in the field, don't go back for your coat. Just run. Notice what he's saying. Don't pack, don't plan, don't hesitate. Run immediately. He explains why. Pregnant women and nursing mothers pray it doesn't happen in winter or on the Sabbath because you won't be able to move fast enough. And then comes the terrifying part. For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. Worse than the flood, worse than any war, worse than any plague. The worst period in all of human history follows this moment. But here's the question. What exactly is this abomination? And how will anyone recognize it when it happens? To answer that, we go back 600 years before Jesus, to a Hebrew prophet named Daniel, living as a captive in Babylon. He received a vision that included a precise timeline, a countdown to the end of the age. Daniel chapter 9 describes what's called the 70 weeks prophecy. But these aren't regular weeks. Each week represents 7 years. So 70 weeks equals 490 years. Think of it like a countdown timer. God gives Israel 490 years to accomplish specific things: end transgression, make reconciliation for sin, bring in everlasting righteousness, and anoint the Messiah. The first 69 weeks, that's 483 years, already happened. They ran from the decree to rebuild Jerusalem all the way to Jesus Christ's first coming. But there's 1 week left, the 70th week, 7 final years. And here's what Daniel says happens during those 7 years. A leader will broker a peace covenant with many nations for 1 week, 7 years. But in the middle of that week, 3.5 years in, he stops the sacrifices. He sets up an abomination that makes the temple desolate. Notice something critical. To stop sacrifices, they have to be happening first, which means the temple must be rebuilt, worship must be restored. Daniel gives us the timeline. Years 1 through 3.5, peace. The covenant holds. Sacrifices happen. Year 3.5, betrayal. He stops everything and sets up the abomination. Years 3.5 through 7, the great tribulation Jesus warned about. But this prophecy has already been partially fulfilled once. Fast forward to today. For decades, the idea of rebuilding the Jewish temple seemed impossible. The Temple Mount is controlled by Muslims. The Dome of the Rock sits where the temple once stood. Any attempt to change that would trigger a war. But something's shifting. The Temple Institute, founded in 1987, has spent nearly 40 years recreating everything needed for temple worship. The priestly garments, woven according to exact biblical specifications. The golden menorah, 7 branches of pure gold. The altar of incense, the table of showbread, every priestly instrument. They've even designed blueprints for the third temple, modular, prefabricated, ready to assemble in months, not years. This isn't theoretical. They have a museum in Jerusalem where you can see these artifacts right now. Then there's the red heifers. Ancient Jewish law requires the ashes of a completely red, unblemished cow for purification rituals before temple service can begin. These animals are extremely rare. For centuries, finding one seemed impossible. In September 2022, 5 red heifers were flown from Texas to Israel. They're being raised under strict rabbinical supervision, examined regularly to ensure they remain unblemished. Without this ritual, priests can't serve. Without priests, sacrifices can't happen. In 2004, a group of rabbis re-established the Sanhedrin, the Jewish high court that hasn't functioned since 70 AD. Their stated mission: prepare for the temple's rebuilding. They've identified candidates for high priest. They're ready, and young Jewish men from the tribe of Levi are being trained right now in temple rituals, learning how to sacrifice animals, how to handle the altar, how to perform ancient ceremonies. They're rehearsing for a temple that doesn't exist yet, which means they believe it's coming soon. But here's what they don't see coming. This has happened before. In 167 BC, a Greek king named Antiochus Epiphanes ruled over Judea. He hated the Jews and everything they stood for. He outlawed Jewish worship, banned the Torah, prohibited circumcision. Then he did something unthinkable. He walked into the temple in Jerusalem, the holy place where only priests were allowed, and desecrated it. He sacrificed a pig, an unclean animal, on the altar of God. He set up a statue of Zeus, a pagan idol, right inside the temple, and he commanded the Jews to worship it. The Jews revolted. After 3 years of fighting, led by Judas Maccabeus, they reclaimed the temple and purified it. We celebrate this event today as Hanukkah. But here's what matters. Antiochus fulfilled part of Daniel's prophecy. He stopped the sacrifices. He set up an abomination. Yet Jesus said the prophecy was still future. Why? Because Antiochus was just a preview, a shadow, a trailer for the main event. He showed us what the abomination would look like. But the final fulfillment is still coming. And if Antiochus was the rehearsal, what will the actual performance look like? So who is this man? This figure who will deceive the entire world? The Bible gives him multiple names, and each one reveals something about his character. The Antichrist, meaning he opposes Christ and tries to replace him. The man of sin, because he embodies rebellion against God. The son of perdition, destined for eternal destruction. The beast, a monstrous figure with terrifying power. The little horn who rises subtly but speaks great things. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 gives us the clearest description. He opposes God. Everything God loves, he hates. Everything God commands, he rebels against. He exalts himself above everything. Supreme pride, total narcissism, self-worship taken to its ultimate conclusion. And then comes the defining moment. He sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Not claiming to be like God, claiming to be God himself, and people will believe him. Daniel adds more details. This king does according to his own will. No accountability, no checks and balances, total autonomy. He speaks impressive things against God, not just blasphemy, but persuasive, compelling speech that makes evil sound reasonable. He regards no God. Whether he was raised religious or secular, he discards it all. He worships only himself. He doesn't regard the desire of women. This phrase is debated, but it suggests he has no natural human affection. He's cold, calculating, inhuman. But here's what makes him truly dangerous. He doesn't start out looking evil. 2 Thessalonians says, his coming is with all power, signs, and lying wonders. He performs miracles. He solves problems. He brings peace where there was war. He provides solutions where there was chaos. The world doesn't follow him because he's scary. They follow him because he's compelling, charismatic, convincing. He presents himself as exactly what humanity needs. Revelation tells us he receives a fatal wound that somehow heals. Whether literal or symbolic, this event causes the whole world to marvel and follow him. They worship him, saying, "Who is like the beast?" Who can make war against him? He'll have political power, economic control, religious authority, and for 3.5 years, he'll hold it all together. The world will experience a peace they've never known, but it's a trap, because at the midpoint, everything changes. Here's the part that makes this prophecy so chilling. The same man who helps Israel rebuild their temple is the same man who will defile it. Think about what that means. Israel has wanted their temple back for 2,000 years. It's the center of their worship, their identity, their connection to God. And someone is going to make it possible. He'll broker the peace deal. He'll navigate the impossible politics. He'll bring Muslims, Jews, and Christians to the table and somehow make everyone agree. The world will call him a peacemaker, a diplomat, a savior. Israel will trust him. They'll celebrate him. They might even consider him their long-awaited Messiah. And for 3.5 years, everything works. The temple stands. Sacrifices happen. Peace holds. The covenant remains intact. He'll look like the greatest leader in human history. But at the midpoint, he stops the sacrifices. He walks into that temple, past the outer courts, past the sacred areas where only priests belong, straight into the Holy of Holies, the place so sacred that the high priest could only enter once a year. And he sits down. He doesn't ask permission. He doesn't claim to represent God. He claims to be God. Daniel calls it the abomination that makes desolate. Jesus said, when you see it, your life depends on how fast you move, because what follows is the great tribulation, persecution, judgment, a level of suffering the world has never seen. The Jews will realize they've been betrayed, the man they trusted, the man who gave them their temple back, the man they possibly worshipped. He was the Antichrist all along, and now he demands the entire world worship him or die. So where does this leave us today? The temple instruments exist. You can see them in Jerusalem. The priests are trained and waiting. The red heifers are in Israel right now, being watched, being prepared. The Sanhedrin has been reestablished. The political landscape is shifting in ways that seemed impossible just decades ago. Every piece Daniel described is moving into position, not metaphorically, literally. The stage is being set for a 7-year countdown that hasn't started yet, but could begin at any moment. And somewhere in the world right now, there's a man. He might be in politics, he might be in business, he might be completely unknown, but he's the one this is all preparing for, the one who will broker the impossible peace, the one who will help rebuild the temple, the one Israel will trust. He doesn't know it yet. The world doesn't know it yet, but prophecy already gave him a name. The question isn't if this will happen. Daniel's timeline doesn't fail. Jesus' warning wasn't hypothetical. The question is, how close are we? And when the 7 years begin, will anyone recognize what's starting until it's too late? The clock isn't counting down yet, but every piece needed to start, it is already in place.